Awesome. So just I want to be generous, considerate of your time. So
Sure.
it's 5:02. So thank you all so much for joining today. My name is Marian Way, and I'm the Employer Engagement Coordinator with Graduate Business Career Services. Thank you all again, and I want to thank and welcome Nevin Garcia, who's currently a financial representative at Northwestern Mutual. A little bit about Nevin. He is a Cal State Long Beach MS Finance alum. So welcome back, Nevin. He has served as a project analyst in the past at HNTB before moving to Northwestern Mutual. A little bit about Northwestern Mutual. It is a financial services company that provides a wide range of financial products and services, including insurance, investment services, and financial planning. So thank you so much, Nevin, for taking the time to meet with our students. I know you're going to be talking to them about financial planning, a little bit about Northwestern Mutual. So throughout the presentation, Nevin's going to be able to pause and let you guys ask some questions. If you're able to turn on your cameras, great. If not, then that's very understandable too. But again, thank you very much, Nevin. I'm going to pass it off to you.
Okay, well, no, thank you for that introduction. Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I appreciate your interest in, you know, uh, joining on a five o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, and I know sun's shining, so appreciate your time there. And I'm excited to be here with you today to talk about a career in financial services industry and the importance of financial planning on a personal level. So while today we're going to be focusing on the financial services career, my hope is that you take the time to really evaluate what you want to do in life, whether and where your skills best align and what best company is for you to start your career in. And that's in alignment with your values and that allows you the best opportunity for success. And it's also important to think about financial planning for your own self and maybe those that already have families now and take action on the different aspects of planning, which I will be discussing in this presentation. So preparing for life after college is a large subject to tackle. I'm going to try to do my best to cover what I believe are the most important topics to consider in a life post-college. We will talk about financial security, expenses after college, managing finances, considering benefits with future employers, employee versus entrepreneur, and a financial services career. And to introduce myself a little further, I am a career changer, as they call, with Northwestern Mutual, meaning I decided to pivot my working career from first the maritime industry as an operations manager then to at an engineering design firm as a project analyst, as Marianne shared, to currently as a financial representative with Northwestern Mutual. I was actually in your same shoes as you back in 2021, 2022, when I was enrolled at Cal State Long Beach, as Marianne mentioned, in what was the previously named, right, MS in Finance or MS in Financial Analytics known today. I grew a lot in my 10 years in the working world so far and established many great working relationships from many of the previous companies and coupled that with what I learned at Cal State Long Beach and, inspiration to go into finance allowed my growth in the career I am today. As you can see, there's no singular straight path to your working career. It is okay to explore different careers and different industries. The important piece is continuing to grow and take your experiences forward. First, let's talk about financial security. Let's start with a concept that can be summed up for the rest of our conversation today, financial security. What does financial security mean to you? So I'll pause here. Want to get some feedback from the crowd here if they either mute or unmute or in the chat. Just yeah, what does financial security mean to you? Just maybe a couple people.
Private safe, property safe,
Okay.
transaction safe,
Okay, great. Somebody else?
The having security in what you want to be able to purchase now and in the future, and having those plans aligned.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay, no worries. So the thing with that concept, right, as we heard from Ryan and Nikki, and then, I'm sure in your minds, as you're thinking about this question, financial security means different things to different people, right? So know what your definition is and work to build financial security for yourself as you transition from college to the work world. And then we'll talk more about financial security later on in this presentation. As you set about achieving your dreams for financial security, one thing we think we should think about are your expenses. So expenses after college, right? Let's start with the obvious elephant in the room, debt. So it's true, most students accumulate more than knowledge when they're in college. Most college students also accumulate debt in the form of student loans and credit cards. And that can make for poor marks on your credit score, which leads to frustration when you want to take out a loan to purchase a car or home. Okay. So here are some startling facts about college debt in America. In total, college students have amassed approximately 1.2 trillion in student loan debt. So on average, each graduate carries about 35,000 in student loans. So as you can see, the slides are a little outdated from 2015 to 2016. And actually today's dollars, it's about 1.6 trillion. And addition to student loans, many students apply for credit cards, right? Thinking it's a good way to raise their credit score. But it can actually end up hurting their credit score if cards are not paid off every month. So you should know that taking out credit cards does not raise your credit score as much as paying back a loan does. Once you graduate college, you'll be adding to your life expenses accumulated during college, things like a mortgage, right, health and dental insurance, utilities, cable and cell, groceries, etc. And don't forget about, right, what we talked about, student loan payments and any credit cards you have opened. The good news is that you can manage your money before it manages you. I'm sure you've heard that before, right? So let's dig into how. So it can all be a bit overwhelming. What can help is having a plan to manage your money before it manages you. So you can get started right away by taking the kinds of actions outlined on this slide, 6 steps. Things like setting goals, recording your income and expenses, knowing what your needs are versus your wants, and having a plan. Really, a budget is just a plan for your money based on your values. If it's important to you, plan for it. The idea behind a budget is it should reflect your life, then actually track your spending so you can regularly analyze where your money is going and make adjustments to stay happy about your financial security goals. The most important takeaway from this slide is to start managing your money now. Some of you are already managing your money. That's fantastic. Some of you are just getting started. Also great. What are some good budget resources? So for starters, check your bank, your credit union website for free budget tracking apps. If it doesn't meet your needs, there are several in the app world. Again, a little outdated from 2020, but a few out there to help manage your budgets. And then also finally, seek out credible money advice from trusted companies. So my company, Northwestern Mutual, offers free articles and white papers that you can download from our corporate website. And what you see on the screen are examples of just, you know, what info is available, which is all free. So I wanna pause here and say that there was a ton of information we just covered. Does anyone have any questions at this time before we move on into any career considerations?
I guess I'm wondering how you would define financial security, like as a professional.
So for me, it's being able to do the things that you want to do, right? I tell clients, right? I help get people what they want and protect what they love. So that could be anything for that person, whatever you know, they're wanting, right? So very wide range. I typically not want to funnel them into a singular action, right? Some people may not have kids versus those that have kids. So I can't necessarily, I have to listen to them to make sure that I'm correctly providing any recommendations based on what goals that they have and their life situation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Okay, great. Thank you for that, Alexia. So I wanted to share all that information with you so you can start thinking of all the things to consider now and, you know, before and during your job search. So if you're graduating soon, this information is particularly timely. But even if your graduation is like a year or 2 years away, these are great things to know now or know sooner rather than later. So we talked about financial security earlier. What can also help achieve your financial security dreams is to more fully consider the benefits that are offered to you as different as you explore different potential employers. So in a very real sense, the company you work for can add or it can contribute to for your financial security by providing benefits that impact your bottom line. So let's take a look at a few of these. So these are some of the group benefits that employers may offer. So when you weigh offers, consider the value of these benefits in your calculation. Having your health and dental insurance paid for you and having a company matching 401k benefit can add a ton to your sense of financial security. So can life and disability insurance. Disability insurance, or DI, protects your income if you become injured or ill, and life insurance replaces your income, leaving your family intact financially if you pass away too soon. So going back to Alexia, question, right? Maybe life insurance for somebody, right, who doesn't have kids is as important for them. But as they get kids, right, we will then incorporate life insurance into their plan. DI is something that we should always take a look at because at any point in life, right, we can fall sick or injured. So that's always something that we should consider as part of our plan. Any backstops to keep us from having us earn our income. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Yes, I had a quick question. I was wondering, I've just something I've been thinking about. So I'm getting like I'm close to the past the halfway point and getting closer to graduating with my MBA. And I've understood that I'm very curious. I understand, I know folks that work in these financial firms like BlackRock, Blackstone, or like, Goldman Sachs, and like these financial companies, they pay an extremely huge amount of money and they work you like crazy though. You don't ever have time off. But the thing is that
Mhm.
these people are making like more than most average folks that you could ever imagine. But then
Right.
I'm also looking at, okay, well, they're getting these 401k plans. And like, so then I think about, okay, well, what about like, you can make like maybe 150 grand as a mid-level manager in some government job. Yeah, you're making 50% less, and these guys are like BlackRock making 300 grand at 25, 30 years old. But then I'm thinking, okay, well, what if one of these guys, like the government job, they get a pension, and the BlackRock or Blackstone or Goldman Sachs or whatever, Northwestern Mutual offers a 401k. What about when they're 85 years old? Like this, I mean, like, are these 85-year-olds like 401k money is essentially a big savings account that's invested. So like what happens when the 401k runs out? Then like where does the money come from? Like Social Security only goes so far. So I'm really putting a lot of thought into this, and I feel like you're someone that knows a bit about something about that.
Yeah, so 401ks are just one type of investment vehicle which is, accessible to the regular retail person, right? Employee. When we do sit down with clients, right, it all goes back to goals and what they think is, what gives them financial security. And we actually, right, you hear probably, right, diversification within a portfolio, but we also want diversification between all the different investment vehicles available to people, which then have different tax treatments, right? So when we're ready to pay ourselves back in retirement, right, we pick and choose what accounts that we want to be able to, right, fund our retirement. But then also because it's in different buckets, funnels, we are able to pay the least in taxes. So we make a plan, and if we plan ahead and well enough, we're able to right, diversify our saved dollars not into a 401k, but right, there's permanent life insurance, for example. There's right, just a regular brokerage account. There's annuities, right? There's many different types of vehicles available. It just really pertains to right, that person's or that specific individual, based on right, their goals. And then going back to your right, the other financial services firms, right? I'm going to go into this a little bit more, but it really comes down to your values, right? Are you right? The people that work at BlackRock that you say, right, does earn a lot of money, but then, right, then works a lot. They find value in the money versus, right, a less time, right? But then you did mention about another firm that, right, pays you less, but you have more time for you, more work balance. So it really comes down to the values that align with yourself and then the company that you're wanting to be with. And so I'll go into that a little bit more and just like structure it a little bit more. So
I'm just trying to figure out if when everyone hits 80 years old, is their 401k money running out? But and then the guy with the pension plan can live to be 120 and he still collects pension checks every time, even when he hits 120 years old, the pension money still shows up. But I was curious what your thoughts were on that. But
okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's different, right? Different plans have different rules, right? So, right, we're gonna go a little bit into the weeds here, but like a 401k, right, has minimum distribution starting at 73, right? Because you didn't pay the taxes or some of the taxes today, right? Uncle Sam wants it when you're 73, so you have to withdraw it, right? A pension is different, right? That's more of a employer contribution plan, so they have different rules. The cons there or the downsides there is if it is a healthy plan, like a pension plan that's able to pay out to their participants, great. However, there are times where the money does run out and they actually reduce the amount of payments to these participants. So it is all very detailed and all that type of stuff. So, again, each company is different. So I mean that those are a couple points there.
I apologize for the question, but thank you so
No,
much for that.
yeah, of course. No, happy to connect with you a little bit later. I'll have my contact info if you have any more questions. So, and for anybody really too. So what is the best approach to saving and investing? So throughout your life, you'll need as I mentioned, you'll need a mix of both saving and investing strategies to provide for both short-term and long-term needs. It's a good idea to open a savings account and start making monthly contributions to it. A great place to start investing is by contributing to a retirement plan like a 401k. There are many different ways to save and invest. So a financial professional like myself can help you find that balance that works best for you, for your family, and build a comprehensive plan to help you achieve your financial goals today for years to come. So going a little bit more in detail on the slide, specifically for 401ks and IRAs, right? Because it is a retirement account, right? Meant for retirement, right? We should not touch these dollars until at least age 59 and a half. If you do that, right? If for some reason you need to access that, there is a 10% penalty plus the taxes you would regularly pay for early withdrawals. And one benefit for a 401k is that companies may match a portion of your contributions, right? So essentially making 100% on your contributions. When it comes to starting to contribute to a 401k, experts agree that the sooner is better. So the image on the screen is one that you can find online pretty much anywhere in many different versions that shows the difference between starting to invest early versus later. So when it comes time to invest, starting earlier can have an exponential impact to your bottom line. So their line over here, right, starting at age 25 versus age 30 and 40, right? Einstein did say the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. So I'd like to offer you some things to think about regarding a rather fundamental choice as you leave college and head out into the work world, right? The choice between becoming an employee at a company versus being self-employed as an entrepreneur. So let's take a look at some of the differences between the two. If you decide to be self-employed, so instead of becoming an employee at a company, you'll have different considerations regarding benefits. In some cases, starting your own business means you have access to very little benefits from a company. It's all on you to find and fund things like insurance and retirement accounts. However, some self-employment situations do allow you to tap into a company for benefits such as Northwestern Mutual. So we have some great services and products for that type of structure. Taxes are also handled differently based on your employment situation. So if you're self-employed, you'll file a 1099 for independent contractors. By contrast, as an employee at a company, you'll be asked to fill out a W-4, which is a form you fill out to have taxes taken out of your paycheck. And then after the end of the year, usually January, you'll receive a W-2 that identifies how much you earned and what taxes are withheld. You use that W-2 to fill out and file for your taxes. If you're an employee, you may earn either a salary or an hourly wage. Many of you likely experience hourly wage jobs throughout college. Most likely after graduating college, you'll be earning a salary. There are pros and cons associated with each. Upside for employee salary, right? It's constant, it's consistent income, easier to budget. The downsides, sometimes there's no overtime pay, smaller annual increases, if any, and usually, right, It's 40 hours normally, but you could work 45 plus hours per week. So by contrast, right, Northwestern Mutual Financial Advisors or many of the other, right, self-employment type earn a commission, not a salary. So there are pros and cons to this arrangement as well. So pros, virtually unlimited income potential, pay for performance, flexible work schedule, and no risk of downsizing. However, downsides, variable pay, and then harder to budget. So any questions that came up? Hopefully everybody finding this interesting. And you know, hopefully things that you can take away from today. Still got a couple more here. So yeah, for the last part of the presentation, let's talk about why you should choose a career in the financial services industry. So the market for a good financial representative who provides comprehensive planning has never been stronger than it is today. So the average age of Americans are getting older, right? Particularly as millions of baby boomers hurtle into their 50s, 60s. Their traditional retirement benefit has gone by the wayside, and people are ill prepared to take responsibility for their own financial security. So the bottom line, people need help. And yet the number of financial advisors to serve them is actually dropping. Raising demand, right, for good advisors combined with falling supply has led to competition of the best talent. And, you know, for the right type of candidate, this is a huge opportunity to realize your potential and make a big impact in the community. So why should you consider a career in financial services industry? So with many choices, products, and services, it can be overwhelming to figure out how to achieve your financial dreams, right? That's where an advisor like myself comes in. A trusted advisor identifies options, helps people make sound decisions, help people take action to achieve their dreams. So Northwestern Mutual stands out in the financial services industry as a company because we've earned the highest financial strength ratings awarded to any life insurer by all the 4 major credit rating agencies. And we have a long history, almost approaching 170 years, of doing what's right for our policy owners. And when you do pursue a career with Northwestern Mutual, you don't do it alone. So our reps receive comprehensive training, mentorship, and ongoing support to build thriving careers as independent business people. And then the rewards as a career or of the career are many, right? Helping people, families, communities achieve financial security, being seen as a trusted advisor, and earning competitive financial rewards for yourself are among the many reasons, right, advisors take on the challenge. When candidates bring their talent, hard work, and experiences, we can help them experience unlimited potential in leadership, financial independence, and community impact through affecting more lives by providing clients with financial freedom. You know, that's what we call return on ambition. Couple small jokes there. So here's a high level overview of what financial representatives do on a day-to-day basis. Generally speaking, they work with their clients to assess their needs and provide expert guidance to help them put together a solid plan to achieve their financial goals. So in this process, they solidify their own future as well. They consistently build their business by forming enduring relationships with clients and meeting new people that they can help secure their futures with. So I actually had the opportunity to meet some of, you know, some students, and we actually went through a mock initial meeting. And so, you know, using the same type of questions I would ask real prospect clients, and they're able to, you know, see in real time my day-to-day. So for anybody interested, again, I'll have my contact information I would love to, at least share that initial meeting with you, do some mock meetings, see if you would like to, right, try this career out. Speaking of what it takes to become a financial representative, this career provides an incredible opportunity for the right type of candidate. But who is that right type of candidate? So we believe it's less to do with direct experience as it does with what drives you as an individual. Whether you're fresh out of school or someone 20 years older, right? Like I wouldn't say 20 years older, but for me, did a more career change, right? The people who succeed as representatives are driven by three distinct strong qualities. They're self-driven, they have a high service motivation, and a high achievement motivation. So let's say that's you. You see the need and the opportunity, and you believe you have the right skill set and drive. You made the decision to be a financial representative, and you're being courted by several different companies. How do you decide which to join? So, as with most anything else, there's no easy answer, but here's how you can do your homework. So when you're buying a car, do you base your decision on the paint job exterior without looking under the hood? The same can be said about deciding where you want to have a career as a financial representative. You should consider multiple factors. You have to see the big picture, right? Here are a few things we suggest you should consider as you're making your choice. You got values, product quality, financial strength, distribution, training development, support, client development, productivity, and compensation. So let's just dive into some of these. And some of these aren't specific, and those that aren't specifically interested in this industry, right? Financial services industry, the content does still relate, right? As you look at companies outside this industry that you're looking at. So the first attribute is values. So what I mentioned as a response to Matt's question, right? Research each company to find out their values, right? Do they share what those values are? Do their values and company philosophy seem to support one another? How does the company's value align with your own values? Are they similar? Are they off? Right? Think about these questions so you can choose a company that has values similar to yours. And then also look for a company you believe genuinely puts its employees or its customers' interests first, right? A good place is to start by looking how they approach relationships, right? Today, specifically in financial services, clients don't want to be sold products, right? Customers not necessarily want to be sold products. They want to understand how those products help them achieve specific outcomes, right? They want a plan. That means you would need to be an advisor before you are a salesperson, right? You want to make sure to put the emphasis on not pushing products right out the gate, right? Instead, you have to listen, understand concerns, identify goals, develop develop solutions. So this one is a huge one for me. As many of you already know, right? The financial services industry is highly technical and closely regulated. This is not a job where you want to be thrown into the deep end. So it's important to look for strong training and development program that involves not just the initial startup training, but also a clear outline and ongoing training, coaching, and development curriculum as well. So, try to find out what their coaching and mentoring looks like 1 year, 2 year, and 3 years from your start date. And again, this includes anybody you're looking to go with, right? Do they have a development plan for you? right? What's the training support that they have for you, right? Google, I don't know, Amazon, right? All the big ones, right? In the financial services industry, there are many opportunities to continue your education, and a good company will offer different training opportunities throughout your career, right? Ask if there's any advanced training programs as you progress in your career, right? Also ask what kind of opportunities exist for education and credentialing, and if they're reimbursable. And then lastly, what kind of supervisory support you'll have to stay abreast of and in compliance with. In a constantly shifting legal, right, and regulatory landscapes, remember that you're looking for a company where you can launch a career or a working career, where you'll have the avenues to learn and grow, and where the investment is in you equal to the investment in the company. Productivity at a company in an office says a lot. So when you're considering a new career, you want to join a winning team, right? And learn from a set of successful colleagues. To do that, make sure you look into the productivity of the total field force you're joining. It could give a lot of insight into their training programs, the quality individuals they select, right? The support, the culture in the office and or company, and the potential opportunity that exists within the company. So then drill down into the productivity. Higher producers tend to develop alongside other higher producers, right? I think the saying the people that you surround yourself with are the people that you become, or the closest that you become, right? So you want to make sure each company to provide you with a breakdown if possible, ask for different breakdowns to help you, further evaluate and provide realistic picture of like people's like performance within a company. So I talked about compensation in the earlier slides. Again, Matthew mentioned about it, touched on it, but going into more detail, right? Compensation is an important part of what we do and why we do it, right? Money motivates people, right? Maybe money for other people don't, right? So again, it's what motivates people. Be sure compensation structures have been well researched before you decide which company you work for. In the financial services industry, most companies will offer multiple sources of income. So make sure you consider the full package and not just a singular aspect of it, right? Companies that offer 100% commissions have a high ceiling for the income you can make. They give you complete control and have more of an entrepreneurial feel, but the onus is on you to produce. Companies that pay small salaries to give you a little cushion, but that might come with smaller commissions and less control over the long-term upside. So you also want to look beyond the commissions alone, right? Is there a bonus pool? Are there benefits such as a 401k, right? 100% company funded retirement, reimbursable education and more, right? Things that we already mentioned. There are no universals here. So it's a personal decision, what's most important to you. Consider the big picture, right? Focus on total rewards 5, 10, 15, 20 years out down the line rather than just one singular aspect of compensation. And then, I just want to take the last few seconds just to share some insights into the Northwestern Mutual Internship Program, which is available to students. I understand some of you may be international students listening in. I'm still trying to find an answer whether, right, it's available to international students. I'm still working on that. But here are some of the things: recruiting throughout the year, summertime, actual business experience for your resume, opportunities to develop yourself and others, right? Flexible work schedule, assist with career selection process and a jump start into right Northwestern Mutual career should you want to. So I appreciate everyone's time. I'm happy to be a resource to you. You know, here's my contact information. Should you want to connect and network, I'm on LinkedIn as well. But appreciate you all tuning in. I hope this was, you know, very informational for you, things that you probably didn't think about. Again, wanted to make it as relevant for you as possible. Any questions? Diana, is that how you?
No, Dania. It's
Oh,
okay.
Dania, I'm sorry. Sorry.
So I have a few questions. One is this presentation getting sent to us? I think it was being recorded, right? I jumped on a little bit late.
Yes, I will have it and we'll send it to you afterwards.
Okay, perfect. And then my other question was about the internship. Is that just for undergraduate students or also graduate students?
So I believe it can be for either. LinkedIn has quite a bit. You know, they do, or Northwestern Mutual does advertise, or not advertise, but yeah, puts it on their LinkedIn posts. So do read that. I think it is available to students, just any.
And then my
any level.
last question for you, you mentioned you got your master's in finance or financial analytics, whichever one. I know it changed over. But coming from a background, let's say not in finance for my undergraduate degree or my master's degree, and coming from more of a obviously MBA, I'm currently in the program. How attractive am I for a position in a financial institution? Just because when you think about somebody working at a bank or an investment, you obviously think that somebody more experienced, like working at a bank or having that background or knowledge, or just the undergrad or master's degree in finance would be more attractive. Is it the same, or would you put us on the same, kind of level when applying to a position at a financial institution?
Yeah, those that do more financial planning, so like Northwestern Mutual, in my previous slides, right, you don't necessarily need the technical, right, background. It does help. Obviously, when having that knowledge of finance, I didn't necessarily have a background in sales, as some people tend to, come into. So they can learn on the job, and having that support of mentorships, joint work with uh experienced advisors that you can learn. What you can't learn is that ambition part, right? The ambition, the drive, entrepreneurship. And so, for me, I think I had my strength on the more technical work or technical knowledge. However, I am still mastering my craft, or I'm always mastering my craft on the relationship building, right? Being able to listen to each client, be able to be flexible there. It's more the ambition, right? And then also being coachable, right? If you're like JP Morgan or Merrill Lynch, right, where you are an employee, you do need that actual background in which, right, you'll have to apply, right? It's very competitive. Not to say that a career in financial services is competitive, not competitive, but right, they more look at your drive at that point.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just add that I would also recommend, I mean, we do have Forage where you could look online if you're able to get an internship utilizing Forage to be able to work on some projects like that, to be able to add to your resume to kind of get the experience in there as well.
So I'm not, and just to clarify, I'm not totally into the internship knowledge base. I just do want to share that, right? Northwestern Mutual does have a program should you want to, but I can connect with you if it really is something, and I could try to, I am at our Los Angeles office, right? We connect what we call network office in Los Angeles. but my office is actually in Manhattan Beach. We have a Corona office and a Long Beach office. But they're right doing some internship stuff there. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
How did you manage your career shift transition, and what skills did you leverage when you were doing that?
So I did my undergrad back in 2012. So I graduated in marine transportation at Cal State, actually Cal Maritime. So that's actually in Vallejo, California. So actually it's small world, right? It's same CSU system. And then I worked in maritime for like 10 years. I thought, right, that's going to be my end all career. And I actually was laid off from them about a couple years ago. So I kind of had to put things in perspective, right? I'm like, what do I do? Right. I thought they're never going to do that. Right. So think about those things as well. Right. In terms of just being open to many opportunities. So I had to kind of catch up a little bit and kind of figure out what I want to do. So I then, when I did go into as a project analyst, I actually just graduated from and got my master's. And when I interviewed with them, they were more interested in, right, again, my work history and more of my relationships that I've built. And that, right, I could prove to them that, sure, I just got my master's in finance. However, I can learn pretty quick, right? I can do all this. So so even though I didn't have direct right background or direct knowledge for that project analyst job, I was able to scoot in there, and the interviewees and interviewers were able to see that, right? However, in those couple years, I discovered it was just not the right fit for me culture-wise, right? Things that I talked about, right? You want to have companies that align with your values. And so I was like, okay, what should I do, right? I always had a passion for finance, right? Again, maritime is always gonna be your first love. Let me just pivot my career and just dive in, right? I had that hesitation of commission versus salary. That's always what's hesitant for me when before I made the move, but I did it, right? I'm taking on that risk. And again, I think they saw my drive, they saw my history of or my mentors and the people in the office saw more of the drive and everything, and I could see that I can learn the sales part of it, right? The relationship side of it more. And they already knew, again, that I have a master's in finance and that I actually just on my own, right, learned the topics growing up. So even when I went to do my master's in finance, it was a lot easier than having to just start from when class started. Is that
Definitely. Thank you. Yeah, that was
Okay.
very helpful.
Anyone else? Going once? We all hungry? Bedtime? I'm tired.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I was wondering, do you think the bond market is kind of unstable right now, or it's kind of acting a little spooky? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yes. I mean, you've seen the volatility, right? I think it's going to be that I can't specifically say, but right, it's just going to be volatile until we figure out what the administration wants to do with these tariffs. You do hear them, being sold off, right? So that's why having a financial plan, right? We build in these downtimes, right? We help clients build this in, and we know this is going to happen because, every 5 to 7 years it does, and we have strategies that we put in place that we could say, hey, you're in retirement, all your portfolio bonds, whatever it's doing, stocks are going down the toilet. Let's pivot to something that's not correlated, that is more efficient, and you can use that for your living expenses, right? So, we don't want to also, right, change the things or feel, right, have an emotional change in what we do, right? We all know long-term hold strategy is beneficial in the end. So yes, it is volatile, and right, we don't really know what's going to happen with the bond market, right? Is there going to be a recession? But if we plan well enough and ahead enough, it doesn't really matter, right? We may just reduce the amount of loss versus those that just have everything in the marketplace, things like that, right? Timing of the market is bad as well, right? We're not supposed to sell just because we feel like it's gonna go, and then when we bring it back in, right? So I have many different illustrations from Northwestern Mutual that like illustrates all that type of things, that like timing the market's bad, right? It doesn't matter what administration's in political office at the time, it all is the same, right? Up and down. So yeah, don't be too worried, right? Because especially, I don't know how old you are, but probably in your 20s, 30s, right? We shouldn't need to worry about that.
Thank you so much.
Mhm. Right.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much, Nevin, for taking the time to speak with our students about financial planning and your transition to Northwestern Mutual. I mean, I know personally I've learned a lot about financial planning in my
Yeah.
future. And knowing what to look for when applying for a position, because honestly, benefits are super important, and knowing what it is that you value, time or money or both or whatnot. So that's important. So thank you for pointing that out. If I've put it in the chat, a link to our evaluation. Please take a moment to fill it out. It'll only take a minute or two. This really assists us with our future planning, and you'll also be entered into an opportunity drawing for a Cal State Long Beach sweatshirt at the end of the semester. So, those things are $60, $70. Not a lot of people are filling them out, but if you fill them out, you have a better opportunity to win. So please fill that out. Again,
All
thank you so
10s.
much. Again, thank you so much, Nevin, for taking the time, and thank you
Nah, thank
all
you.
for joining today. And I hope you all have a great night and the rest of your week.
Bye all.
Thank you. You
Okay.
too.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.